Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you join us today for the Beeswax webinar focused on free ad-supported streaming TV. I'm Jen Berg, and I lead sales marketing for Freewheel's enterprise demand technology portfolio. And I'm joined today by Travis Flood. He is the director of customer insights at our sister company, Effectv, and we all sit under the Comcast advertising umbrella. Travis will share a bit about himself and share some great insights that they have. He and his team have gleaned from a recent white paper published on F.A.S.T, and it's really meant to highlight why advertisers and consumers are both taking more advantage of this opportunity and kind of how you can unlock this opportunity as well in the Beeswax DSP. So we'll tie it back to Beeswax a bit at the end, but really excited to hear Travis share his thought leadership and his insights. And then we will make time for questions at the end. So feel free to pop them into the chat and we'll address them, but kind of track them along the way. So without further ado, Travis, I will pass it off to you.
Thank you, Jen. Can everyone see Jen, can you give me the heads up? You can see my screen? You're good? Okay, cool. Thanks, Jen, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Travis Flood. I think there's a bio page here on the next screen. I'm Travis Flood. I'm the Director of Customer Insights at Effectv. We fall under the Comcast advertising umbrella, and our focus is really helping local, regional, and national businesses with their multi-screen video advertising. My specific role within the organization is we work on thought leadership pieces, and this is something we recently put out as under the Comcast advertising umbrella that I'm super excited about, because sometimes, you put your mind into a lot of research and you pull a lot of data out. Well, this is something that everybody can get excited about because you can do this. Like literally this morning when I was preparing, I started watching Mystery Science Theater thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get back to what we should be doing. But this is fun. This is things that everybody can make use of, but it's also valuable in how it relates to advertising. And obviously it's the work day. We're all here wanting to learn something. So I'm hoping that through this presentation, you can learn a few things about F.A.S.T if you're not aware, and basically think about how it might fit into your video marketing strategy. So it's good to start with any acronym, and I will apologize in advance for any fast puns. It's something we've made use of quite a bit here in the organization, but anytime you have an acronym, I think it's always good to understand what the letters stand for. So just putting them up here: free ad-supported streaming TV. So free, as it says, you can basically get on to this particular video content free of charge. Now it is ad supported, so you're giving up that watching the show in its entirety without seeing ads. So there would be ads served within it. From an advertiser point of view, or from a marketer point of view, yay, we have content we can monetize to some extent. And then streaming, any content that you can access through an internet device, you can most likely access F.A.S.T content, whether connected TV or mobile device. So it is streaming content. And then finally, the TV. TV, I'm working within the TV landscape for several years now, and it means different things to different people, and it continues to evolve. We have traditional linear television, and then we, connected TV has kind of merged in there. But when we say TV here, I think we're thinking of it in that traditional sense. Imagine that world if you've been removed from it when you're watching channels. You sit down and you say, what's on TV? Well, that's the TV we're really talking about, but we're talking about it in a streaming environment. So let's continue. So one of the reasons, in addition to, we thought this was a really interesting topic to share insights with, is we found that this is also something that is growing. Internet usage over the year for F.A.S.T has doubled. So it is growing. And we actually found when you look at streaming in general, most of the growth from streaming, it's crazy to say that streaming is somewhat met its base level, but for the most part, people who are going to have streaming, and now it becomes a matter of what type of content they're accessing within streaming. The one area of that has continued to grow is F.A.S.T. And as I said, it's a majority of the growth that's happening right now. The penetration for FAST is nearly as much as AVOD at this point. And we'll talk about some of the differences or similarities in those in just a little bit. And FAST, it's always been there as a complement to traditional viewing. Think of it as, I have Netflix and there's some other things over here I can watch of other content in other means. It's always sort of been that, but I think the growth usually leads to attention. Attention leads to, hey, let's put better content there, more premium content. And I think it's resonated with people and they've been able to run with it. So FAST is definitely growing and we're seeing that growth. I think it's important because, whether it's streaming, OTT, all the different things you can think of these terms, it's good to kind of level set of what we're talking about here. So most people are familiar with SVOD, subscription video on demand services. You pay some type of fee, you get access to the content, and they agree not to serve commercials, at least in that part of their service. And you can see some of the providers here for SVOD services. And then people have become more comfortable with AVOD. Obviously, for marketers, that was a great institution because it allowed us to start to put ads in this content. Very similar to traditional TV that has video on demand, advertising supported video on demand through services like you see here. And take note, Peacock serves in multiple places here. So you can pay the subscription and not have commercials, or you can access that content in an on-demand space within Peacock. YouTube's an example of a place where you go and it's on-demand video content that you can access, and there are ads within it, obviously, if you're unless you pay for the premium service. And then FAST services sit, I wouldn't say they're a subset of AVOD, but they're similar in AVOD in that they're ad supported. You can see some of the services here, and Peacock actually has an environment that serves for the FAST as well. Freevee, if you're not familiar, that was formerly IMDb TV. They've been rebranded. Xumo, we'll talk a little bit about Xumo here shortly. They are connected with Comcast Advertising, and you can see some of the other players here as well. I think it's always good to understand the landscape that we're dealing with when it comes to these services. So as we were going through this analysis, we were like, okay, we have FAST, we have AVOD, what's the same, what's different? Because that's a great way to start. Well, first off, they're both ad supported. So this is an environment where, okay, I expect the content to be free because I'm willing to watch ads. And that's kind of the minimum stakes that you're willing to do. Now, AVOD is consumed one-to-one. And I was thinking of an analogy, and we're talking about something technologically advanced, but I'm going to go back to a library. I think about it, AVOD is almost like you go into a library, you walk down the aisle, and you pull a book off the shelf, and you start reading that one book. And you're in the book, and you're like, okay, this is the book I wanted to read. I just read the entire book. I went over and sat on the chair. I'm done reading. I'm going to put it back on the shelf. Whereas, let's say this is a really cool library, and they have storytelling rooms. So as you're walking throughout the library, different people were telling different stories in those rooms, and you're like, wow, that sounds interesting. That's where FAST comes in. It's more of a one-to-many. So rather than going out there and picking a book off the shelf and looking at it and going to the next book and the next book, and maybe there's a series of books that are all lined up, so it's easy to get to them. In terms of FAST, that content is coming to you in some ways. And we're going to go through a demo here in just a second, so hopefully it'll make a little more sense. But I don't know how you are as a viewer or consumer of content, but sometimes you just get overwhelmed by all the choices. So if I have to go out to this service to do this or that service, I think they have that service. Sometimes it's good just to be brain dead, sitting on the chair here and say, I'm just going to turn something on because that looks interesting, and I'm just going to veg for a while and watch the content. And I think that experience, as we'll see in a little bit, has really helped increase the usage because you're really letting the content kind of flow over you. So let's do a quick demo. I'm going to do this demo on the web. This could very easily be served in a different means, and we're going to get to some of the ways you can access this content shortly. But just to show you how simple this is, we're going to use Xumo for this version, so Xumo.tv. And literally as soon as it loads, click, we are watching live video. In this case, it defaults to the news channel. So we are looking at live news right now. But that's all it took to start to consume this content. So very easy to use. And in this particular setup, it could be different for different services. I'm going to leave the sound turned off here for the stations. But these are the recommended channels. And this program guide is very useful for a couple reasons. But that's the concept. If anything from this presentation you want to take with you, it's the idea of a program guide. Rather than going out and, the new way now is you flow through all the not album covers, but video show covers, and you pick the show you want to watch. This is the program guide, and a lot's driven by that. So several of these services news is a big, it's a big way to get audiences on FAST. So maybe you access it first through news, and they're like, oh, interesting, movies. What are movies? And you'll start to see here that in addition to the news content we had, there are all these channels. In this case, I'm going to tune to this network. Let's make this a little. So this is the Zumo Movies channel. So this is a curated experience of all the movie content of multiple movies. And I can see that right now a movie called Burnt. Hopefully I didn't choose anything inappropriate here. Followed by Insidious. And you can go see when the movies are on at 1:40, the movie Heist comes on. And if I wanted to watch that, I could simply jump in here. And although this is a movie, there would be commercials stitched throughout this particular content as we go. So this would be a curated channel that the service is providing. But then there are other channels, I alluded to the Mystery Science Theater earlier, that are intellectual property-based channels. So just to give you a sample of some of these, let's go to the, let's start with Classic TV. I think this is where I ended up earlier. Yes, I was in the Mystery Science Theater channel, and you can see this purple line here. Because this is a channel happening in real time, this is the show that's on right now. So if you've never watched Mystery Science Theater, maybe that's something that would interest you. Maybe you're an Elvis Presley fan with the new Elvis Presley movie out. So if I click on that, I'm actually watching the Elvis Presley channel. So this is the type of, as you talk about targeting audiences and you talk about the long tail of all the things people can watch, having networks that are devoted to one topic really allow you to reach a niche audience. So let's just jump around here a little bit to show you the variety of the channels. Here's a channel with the Wired magazine. You can see that. I can jump over there. I have, sorry, they're a little hard to see here on my end. As we go down, you can see that you get into the family channel. So here's another curated channel. This is Free Family Movies from Zumo branded. So the little trader is on right now. It looks like it's just ending. I would expect an ad to come up here shortly as that finishes. But let's jump around a little bit more. Let's go to reality TV. So there's a Hell's Kitchen channel. There's a history channel. Now this probably is a history shorts. Yes, it's a shorter version of some of the content that previously had been delivered in a cable setting. Here's the Divorce Court channel, and you go to that, it's literally Divorce Court 24/7. So not maybe the topic that's most exciting, but if you're into that show, you could basically turn it on and watch that. Now, you do have the option to restart here, and you could start from fresh because you do have the ability to jump into this in an on-demand type format. But hopefully showing this demo shows you that although it's on-demand content in most cases, except for the live news and also some live sports, this is really on-demand content that's been stitched together so you can watch a channel if that's what you like. I personally like the Dateline channel as another sample. So let's jump back to our presentation. We've covered about the differences between FAST and AVOD. And I probably should have done the demo after this slide, but hopefully we've covered off, and this is to be a review of some of that content. But with the way F.A.S.T works is it really stitches together different videos, as I just mentioned, so that you can watch it in a linear-like format. News channels are very popular. That's a way that a lot of these services will get that initial viewer. And this is probably as good a time as any to say, when you talk about this, one of the unique aspects of F.A.S.T is that the way you can access this content. We simply went to the website for Zumo. We could have gone to the Zumo app. If I grab my remote here on my Xfinity service, I could say Zumo, and it would take me right there on my TV platform. But one of the unique aspects of these services is they are integrated seamlessly within program guides for the TV manufacturers. So if I go to LG or Samsung, and you can do this on your own time, I was going to do a demo, but it wasn't clear enough on the screen to show you my program guide. But you go into the traditional television program guide. So if I go into, let's say the Samsung, I have a Samsung TV, and I go to the program guide, I think starting on channel 100, those are actually Zumo channels. I wouldn't know that. They look like an interesting channel that, hey, they're giving me this free because I bought the TV. Well, there are going to be ads in there. And you as a marketer, you now are in all of these other places maybe you didn't realize you would be because the F.A.S.T services are portable. And a lot of this content, I would say the majority of the content on a F.A.S.T service are delivered in these other mechanisms through their services, as opposed to just, I'm going to download the app and watch just the app. So it's kind of a Trojan horse way to be able to watch some of this content. So in addition to news channels, also there are series-based channels, as we saw with some of those examples. Fail Army is a big one if you're into that type of humor and the different things that happen. That's a popular channel. And then the aggregated channel, this is bringing together curated experiences for particular channels, so you can, let's say, watch family movies. Okay, so I would imagine by now you have some idea. Hopefully you're not already going fast. I'm trying to go fast, so you can get on with your day. See, I had to get at least one pun in there. But why would viewers like to go fast? Well, it's free to watch. That's a good incentive. I may have to see some ads. They're going to be shorter ad loads, so maybe I'll be comfortable with that. I would expect that they probably would be more catered to my needs because it's a digital experience, and I would expect those ads to be more catered to me. There's really no barrier to access. In the case of Zumo, there is no login required. I literally start watching. A lot of these services, that's the way they work. At some point, you may have to log in or register if you want to continue with the content, but initially you don't. And that's a good incentive for people because they don't have to either remember another login or give their information out. A lot of niche programming. So that long tail of all of that other content that it has been produced over the years, it has a new way for people to access. I know during COVID, a lot of shows were brought back to life because people had a lot of time to watch TV and they started watching a lot of these shows on their own. Well, this content's brought directly to you. And then why would an advertiser choose to go fast? One way, as I just alluded to, is you can reach viewers across platforms. So not only native to these devices, but also in these program guides across all of these TV manufacturers. So it's a way to have a one-stop purchase, but be able to reach people in a lot of different places, and also in an engaging place. In the case of Zumo, we found that when people enter the network, they spend about 100 minutes per session just within the content. So lean back experience, let the TV on. I'm not channel surfing the entire time. Maybe I do it a little bit, but then I get set on a channel and I'm good to go there. And then some other research we have done at Comcast Advertising. We partnered with a company to conduct a survey to say, would people be open to ads? I think this is something that people probably would have said a few years ago, no one's ever going to watch ads again because they're just going to buy SVOD services and that's all they're going to do. Well, we're hearing more and more about more of the services offering a subscription, or I'm sorry, an ad-based solution. And for this particular survey, we found 3/4 of them are open to ads in the content if the content is free. So just to conclude, a lot of what I do is to talk to advertisers about, okay, here are the things you should be aware of. That's probably what we're talking about today with FAST. And here's the things that you should hold true as good strategies. We analyze multi-screen campaigns on a regular basis, trying to understand audience delivery. And we've found that really the traditional TV environment and streaming, they work better delivered together. Although this is evolving over time, the foundation element of delivery of campaigns that we see comes from traditional TV, just because of the multitude of ads available within that content and within all of that viewing. So we would say roughly 20 to 30% of an investment should happen on streaming, whereas the other portion of that would be in a live linear setting. FAST can be part of that allocation. So whether it's, the goal here is not to say, okay, here's what FAST is, go out and make that your new marketing strategy. We think this has elements and really valuable elements that will probably allow it to grow over time, but we see it as a complement to a traditional media plan that you would start with. So with that, Jen, I think I'm going to kick it back to you, and whenever you want, I can advance the slides.
Yeah, let's go forward. I think, that was really insightful. Thank you, Travis, for the great demo and just kind of trying to simplify the understanding of FAST and how it sort of fits in the ecosystem. I think, what we hear a lot from clients are, it's connected and streaming is just getting more and more complex. And so I think that you kind of helping to demystify and clarify the FAST environment is really helpful. But we wanted to just close out by tying it back to the Beeswax platform and sort of how can this be activated as an opportunity within your DSP. So there's a couple of things we just wanted to leave you with. And I think first and foremost, as you can tell, even from the last slide and from, throughout this presentation, this is a great way to programmatically complement your linear strategies. FAST can be purchased in many different ways from many different places. But, when we think about the offering within FreeWheel and Beeswax, Pluto and Zumo are two of our largest programmatic CTV or streaming supply partners, some of our FAST partners. And those can be accessed directly in the Beeswax DSP. So just something to think about if you're, wanting to take advantage of this today, or maybe you already are, and, you just wanted to kind of double click on that strategy a bit. I would say secondarily, if you caught our webinar in June, you know that we are unlocking access to FreeWheel Comcast Plus viewership segments in the Beeswax DSP. Xander and Mo went over that in June, and catch the recording if you missed it. But that's another way to think about complementing linear strategies, like using that data segment to find incremental viewers to linear. And so really marrying the two, the access to the inventory and the access to the data segments, is a great way to kind of implement those strategies and think about how can I reach TV viewers in a less traditional way as they change their habits in their streaming. And then just finally, everything we do, we try to make it as easy and accessible as possible. So, connecting with your Beeswax account team to understand the opportunities to access the inventory and or the data, just a little call to action there for you to consider. So we can go to the next slide. And I think one thing we just wanted to leave you with is an actual link to the report itself. So Travis and his team, like I said, have released the report in the last couple of weeks. So it's free to download, and we'll pop it into the chat for those who are live streaming. And I guess just close with a few questions. I think I've seen a couple come through on the chat. I have a few myself. I think we probably have time for one or two, maybe three. So if you don't mind, Travis, I'll put you on the spot for a couple of those. Cool. So I think you did a great job of kind of explaining the difference between SVOD, AVOD, FAST, all that stuff. But can you kind of talk about what's best for advertisers? If I'm a marketer and I'm planning a campaign, how should I think about implementing them?
Yes, I would say that it starts with the audience or goal of your advertising. I think so often the shiny objects and the bells and whistles get at the front of the line, and it's more important to say, what are you trying to accomplish, and what are you trying to do, who are you trying to reach, and then where are those people consuming content? We meet with advertisers, thousands of advertisers, but on a regular basis, where there's this desire to chase the newest foray or the newest thing. And I would say that yes, things are evolving over time, but it's like a big ship. It takes a while to kind of move or to transition, and it's not an all or nothing. The concept that we keep coming back to is that TV and streaming are better together, but also different types of content are better together. So, in the traditional sense, we talk about live news and sports, and people really like that. And sometimes they want to go heavy there. We say, okay, that needs to be balanced with that foundational element. Or advertisers will say, I want to address all my ads one-to-one because that's the holy grail. That's what I want to do. Well, we found that there's a lot of benefit for having a broad reach base and then complementing that with addressable. So these are things we've been able to analyze through thousands of campaigns that we still see a lot of that value there that marketers can take advantage of that many are probably not, because they are, let's say, chasing the shiny object, for lack of a better word.
Right. And one question that kind of just came through on the chat as a follow-up to that, and I think related to the point you made on the last slide around the recommended video investment. So, the current recommended video investment from our research at Comcast Advertising is 20 to 30% should go to streaming. And the question was like, isn't it true that viewership is higher than that? The streaming viewership is closer to 50%. So I guess just if you can talk through, why our current recommendation is that 20 to 30, why isn't it more? Do we think it should be? Do we think it's going there? I think just kind of understanding, where the viewers are versus where the budget allocation sort of currently is based on what we've learned. I know that's sort of related to the Comcast advertising report, but I think it's super relevant.
The one thing I would say, I'll start this out by saying there's not a set percentage. Our salespeople always want to know the number. Is it 27%? Is it 33%? 5% is not enough, and 50% is probably too much. And you had alluded to the fact that people were saying about half the viewing. Well, that viewing could be based on impressions. When we did our particular analysis, and this was of Comcast households, but not all Comcast households have video subscriptions. Not a large portion, but a portion of those have internet only. So they kind of serve that base of these other, let's say, cord cutters. And we basically were looking for incremental reach. And so when we talk about that 20 to 30, it's trying to maximize reach, because we think that's the first element of any successful campaign, is to maximize reach. And it really starts there. We've been having ongoing discussions with some of our partner companies about what they're seeing as well. And maybe it's closer to 40%. And I do think it's evolving. I think it's going to change. And I think we're comfortable as it changes to be able to support that. Our research initially showed, though, after about 30%, your reach dropped off because you're sacrificing streaming impressions for potential reach you would have accomplished with traditional television.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful. And I'm going to kind of combine a question from the chat and a question sort of I had as well, as we close out with this final one. So I think the question is like very broadly, like, where do you see FAST going in the future? And I think you sort of started to talk about it and you kind of touched on it a bit, but I also kind of related to that, like who do we see buying FAST first and foremost? Is it really more of a traditional TV buyer who are really interested in the content instead of the audience? But I also know that FAST, as you kind of talked about, like has data targeting capabilities and it's available programmatically. So I guess, can you talk about like, where you see it going, predictions, and maybe also just related to sort of who's buying this content and maybe how will that change as sort of the offering evolves?
Well, as you can see today, you could possibly be taking advantage of FAST. You may not even know it. I would say the concept of it takes a village, I think, to reach audiences at scale anymore. Although you can do part of that with traditional means, you do have to do a number of different tactics. So taking the second part of your question first, I think a number of people will access FAST in a number of ways. Some may go directly and have a direct connection because they're at large enough that they want to be able to look at incremental reach from just that service. Whereas other people, they'll have more of a run of sight approach where they're part of a lot of these, let's say in a programmatic environment. Where I see this going, and I alluded to this earlier, is that with popularity comes more focus and interest, meaning, hey, we put a bunch of content there. We didn't know if anybody would watch it. Turns out a lot of people are watching it. So maybe we should give some better content there. And you could see that environment, how easy that is to access, where as long as the business makes sense for the companies that are doing it, as long as the business model would make sense, I would expect the content to continually get better, and that experience could start to mimic and or be very similar to the traditional TV viewing experience.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's so helpful. Well, we are just a couple minutes over time, so I want to thank you, Travis, for enlightening us today and sharing all you know about FAST. Another plug for the white paper, just to download it. And you can also Google, it's on our website, comcastadvertising.com/insights. And thank you everyone for the great questions and for attending, and more to come. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.